This video we want to talk about the Service Delivery Clients Report, but just as background information for that, we need to cover several of the fields that are used for filtering devices in that report. The first of those, and probably the most obscure that the fewest people use, is the source field in the service delivery record. And you see that here in the grid listing in the leftmost column, where we've got Head Start, Jackson, Service Delivery, and so on and so forth. The source is simply the form from which the service delivery record was created. And if it's created here directly on the service delivery form itself, then it'll simply be whatever the parent record is. In other words, if it's attached to a client, then the source would be clients. If it's attached to a family, it would be family, and so forth. Otherwise, it can be created automatically. And if we go to Forms, Programs, and on the Program Schedules page, you see the checkbox here for Auto Service Delivery. That will create a service delivery record automatically whenever someone is enrolled in that particular program, and in that case the source will be that scheduled program instance itself. Another example is if we go to Healthcare Addendum, you see the Referral Follow-Up button here on the Physical Exams page. That Referral Follow-Up button occurs several dozen times throughout the various forms of CSST, and each one of those will create a service delivery record. In this case, the source would be physical exams. If it were from immunizations page, referral follow-up, then the source would be immunizations and so forth. The other fields on the service delivery records that are used in the service delivery clients report filtering mechanisms are the associated program that we see down in the lower left corner here. The referred by field up here, and the provider or referred to field. All three of those are also available in service delivery clients. So let's go look at that report. Print reports. We jump down to service delivery client, and we get the special service delivery setup wizard, client setup wizard. First thing that you're looking at here, of course, is the dates. So the start date and the end date, and whatever dates you put in there will be applicable to the filtering, to the query that creates the filtered set of records, regardless of what else you do. So those dates are always going to be effective, and it simply references the service date on the service delivery record. So any service delivery record between those two dates will be included. And then that is further filtered by whatever you do with the additional conditions that you apply using the remaining features of this form. Another important thing to look at here is this radio button selection, include records linked to. So we can include only service delivery records that are linked to clients directly, or we can include only those that are linked to families, or we can do both. Or alternatively, you can have service delivery records that are linked to organizations from the other organizations form, or to agencies from the agencies form. Those latter two are less frequently used. The clients and the families are the most likely ones that you will have in your data set, and of those two, more than likely, most of your records are client linked, although it depends on how you created those. The source listing then, filtering by source, the field that we just talked about in the service delivery form, is done right here on this page in this mover list. So these are all the various sources that have been recorded for service delivery records. If you want to filter by source, then you simply move whichever one or multiple ones you want over to the right-hand side. If you leave that blank, then it simply means you're not filtering by source. In other words, we're now filtering only by the two dates that we have selected up here. The next step then will allow you to choose associated programs. So and the same thing applies here. You're going to see a list of all the associated programs that are linked to service delivery clients. You simply, you can double click, you can pick several at a time and move them across with the buttons. And you're filtering then based on service delivery record linkage to these associated programs. Once again, if you don't want to filter based on that criteria, you simply leave this list blank. The next page then allows you to choose the referred by in the upper mover list and the referred to field, and the same mechanism applies here. You choose the ones you want. If you don't want to filter by either one of those fields, then simply leave it blank. Which then takes us to the next step, which is now not related to the service delivery records themselves. In other words, whatever you've done on the previous 3 steps in terms of filtering service delivery records will give you a list of records that fit those criteria, or more accurately, I should say, it will give you a list of clients who are linked to those service delivery records. But if you want to choose additional filtering devices based on client characteristics, then this is the page to do that. And you may have viewed one of our other video clips on client filter building and using client filters in reports, and you should be familiar with the recall and the custom buttons up here in the upper right. Allows you to establish a set of conditions for clients. So if based on the previous selections for service delivery records, you only want to see those that are linked to clients who are over a certain age or of a certain race or live in a certain county, a certain zip code, or any combination of those things, this would be the place to apply that kind of filtering. So that's done in addition to whatever you've done in terms of setting up filters for the service delivery records themselves. The next step then is to choose an output option. And there's a whole long list of these that are available to you. The first one, of course, is the CSBG Section G. And I'm going to pause the recording for a second here, and we'll show you some examples of each of these reports, just so you get some idea of what you're doing. But the idea here in general is that you've filtered the client list based on those clients who have, or families who have service delivery records fitting all the criteria that you've set up. And then the results of that query, that list of clients, will be included in whichever type of report output you choose to use here. The CSBG Section G, of course, is this, which most of you are intimately familiar with, and so it's simply a summary report, numbers, stratified, divided up by various demographic characteristics, gender, age, ethnicity, education levels, and so on and so forth. The custom client list and the custom include line items I'm going to skip over momentarily, and we'll come back to those. The line item details produces a report that looks like this. So you've got the client, and the fields here are hard-coded. You don't have any control over these unless you go into the Crystal Report Designer, and then you could alter this report if desired. But it's grouped by client name. And then you see the service category, the line item description from the 3rd page, the expenditures description page of the service delivery form, the quantity from that listing, and the item dollar amount from that listing. And one of its incarnations looks like this. So you've got the client name, the funding source, the amount of that funding source, the date associated with it, the number of people in the household, and the last edited by field. The outcomes option is referring to the older style, not logic model outcomes, but the older style outcomes that are available on this last outcomes page of the service delivery form. Not many people are using those these days, but there is a report available based on that data. And it looks like this. So you've got the client name, the service delivery date, category, subcategory, the outcome name, the outcome date, the outcome measured by, and there's a value field associated with each of those outcomes. So you're seeing it grouped by client name and the results of the outcomes that have been recorded on that outcomes page. The payments option, and you can choose to do that as a summary only, will give you a report that looks like this, where you've got the funding source, the payment, the co-payment. These are all records that are entered on the fourth page, the payments page of the service delivery form. And finally, there is the line item summary option, which gives you a report that looks like this. So this is, again, this is all the line items from the line item listing on the expenditures details, the third page of the service delivery form. So all items there that are linked to service delivery records that fit the criteria that you've set up in the filtering devices will be included in this report. Now let's take a look at the custom client list and custom include line items. And the only difference between the two is that the custom include line items will include line item fields, meaning line items, again, from the expenditures details page, or expenditures description page, rather, which is the third page of the service delivery form. So if you wish to include fields from those entries, then you would want the custom include line items. Otherwise, custom client list will give you most of the same options, just excluding those third page fields. When you hit the next, when one of those options is selected and you go to the next button, then you have the ability now to choose fields. And the top of the list here is all client related fields. If you scroll down in this list, you'll start to see fields that start with a prefix SD. Those are service delivery record fields. And if we had chosen to include the line items, then the line item fields, and there's only a handful of those, would be prefaced or prefixed by SDI instead of just SD. So you choose the fields that you want to see, whether those are client name or address or other client related fields, or whether they're service delivery fields. Put them in the right hand list. When you've done that, you can choose to group by. And if you group by, then you have a secondary group by option. You can choose to make it summary only, meaning that no detail lines will be included, only the group header and footers with the totals that are associated with those. And then that will give you a report listing the fields that you've selected for the filtered records that you've selected using all the previous setup conditions.